go back to even when I was younger than that. It comes to mind that living in the country, my mother may ask my stepfather to go and get something to eat from a sandwich or something, a fish sandwich, from one of these little restaurants that they had in the country. And but you couldn't go in the front door if you were black. You had to go around the back where a hole was cut in the wall. And
not even a door.
Not for us. So we had to go. People would line up, even when it was raining, or snowing, they would have to stand outside and get their order their food and go back and sit in the car until it was ready, and then come back and get it. So I saw that happening, and my stepfather would take me with him, and I was maybe about 5, 6, 7 years old. So I began to realize then that it wasn't something wasn't right there.
Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Jalen Henry and happy Black History Month. Today we'll be having a conversation with Mr. James Boardley. James Boardley was a president of SAFE, Students Advocating for Equality, in the 1960s at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Among other things, Mr. Boardley participated in sit-ins, protests, and also helped organize the transportation to the 1963 March on Washington. Mr. Boardley is someone who truly understands what it means to fight for his freedom. We owe him and many others who stood beside him a great deal for their sacrifices and efforts to secure rights that we have today. I hope you'll join me for this conversation, that you'll enjoy it, and that you'll learn something. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jalen Henry. I'm here today with Mr. James Boardley, and we're here to just have a conversation, and hopefully you can learn a couple things. So, yeah, all right. So, first question. First, thank you so much for having this conversation with me again and jumping in. First, we met at Ebenezer AME here in Fort Washington, Maryland, and it was really amazing for me to just get to know you and hear your story a little bit. And I remember the first time I met you, we started talking about how you were the president of SNCC back in, what year was it?
Well, it wasn't SNCC, it was a SNCC chapter.
Okay, cool.
SNCC were made up of different chapters and with different names on college campuses and universities around the country.
Okay.
Howard University had their, Cambridge, it was CNAC. And Howard, I forgot what they named theirs, but we did, at Maryland State College where I was attending, we had, when we had our meeting, we decided to come up with, and I chaired the committee, come up with the name of SAFE. And SAFE stood for Students Appeal for Equality.
Students Appeal for Equality.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that was the name that we came up with.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's a great name, first of all, and it's making me think, first of all, what was it like at that time going to college in the 60s? Experience, I'll start with there. How was it? How was your perspective? What was it like for you?
Oh, I enjoyed going to college, but as far as the civil rights movement is concerned, I started really when I was in the 11th, 12th grade in high school in Annapolis, where I grew up. In my later years in Annapolis, I really started at my early years in the country. So I'm a farm boy.
Really? Okay. Okay. I'm from down south, so I've been on a couple farms. I've been in the country too, so that's good to hear. Okay, good. All right.
So that's where in Annapolis we started out in the movement, organizing. I went to my pastor at the time, was a Baptist preacher, Reverend Leroy Bowman, First Baptist Church in Annapolis.
Okay.
And I lived across with some friends of my mother, across from the Greyhound bus terminal there in Annapolis. And I went to my pastor and I said, Reverend Bowman, I said, in the terminal, why is it that whites sit in the front on the leather seats, and blacks sit in the back on hard wooden benches? And he says, well, James, what are you going to do about it? He says, it doesn't sound right to me. So I said, well, then we can pick it then. He said, well, James, anytime you need to use the church or you the basement or something to make your picket signs and everything, feel free to do it. So that's how I really got involved in the movement. So I organized by getting some of my friends together, a handful of my friends, and we decided to start making picket signs and going out there picking the Greyhound bus terminal.
Okay. Yeah. Do you remember what kind of slogans you would put on the signs? Like, what would you say?
Let's see. Back then, some of the signs was "Freedom Now," you know, and different things like that. I can't remember everything.
Okay.
That was
understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell me? I know there's the famous Montgomery bus boycott. There was one in Tallahassee as well. What was the overall reaction to you picketing the Greyhounds at that time? Was it received, or how did that go about?
Oh no, reporters came around from the Evening Capital, and then we continued doing it every weekend after school, and on weekends we began to see more press, more reporters coming in from other places, other locations, and there are, in fact, I was reading something when one of the authors who's written a book, when he was doing his interview, he did some research and found out that there was reporters there from, I think it was Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota someplace.
So Minnesota to Maryland. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so he was writing for his paper, and he had in there where a group of us were arrested in Annapolis, and for picketing at a couple of the restaurants there in Annapolis. So and sit-ins, we go into the restaurant, we just sit down. They tell us we can't sit there. We had to get in line, and especially this pizza place, get in line, and we had to stand and be served. And so a group of us would go into the restaurant and have a seat, and they said, you can't sit here. And the next thing I know, the police was walking in the door. So the policeman would say, you have to leave. I said, no, I'm ordering my pizza. He says, well, you have to stand over there. I said, no, I don't want to stand, I want to eat it here. So he says, you have to leave. These were white policemen. And I told them that I'm not leaving until I get my pizza. I got my money right here to pay for it.
Understood.
Yeah, so the next thing I know, they had me by the arm, taking me out, and arrested me and several other of my friends that were picketing outside. They went and sit at the bar, at the pizza counter as well. And the same thing happened with them. So we wound up in the Annapolis jail. And
how old were you at that time?
About 18, 19.
Okay.
Yeah. And we wound up in the Annapolis jail there, and I was reading, as I go back to in the newspaper, I think it might have been the Detroit Press, reading in there that when the arrest took place in Annapolis at this name of the restaurant, Antoinette's and another restaurant, I think the Submarine Haven, and said that the bail bondsman came in and the attorneys came in and bailed out about 8 or 9 people that were arrested. But James Boardley refused to leave. So when they asked me, says, why did you refuse to leave? I said, well, I decided I didn't ask them to arrest me, so I'll leave when I get ready.
So how long did you stay there then? If you waited,
a couple of days long.
Okay.
Yeah, until the rats ran me out.
Oh. That's bold. That's bold. Okay. Wow. Oh my goodness. You said they didn't. I didn't. I didn't ask for them to arrest me. So I'm not going to ask them to give me. Okay. Understood.
And the bail bondsman, everybody were out there to bail me out and everything. $50 fines. I mean, bail that had to be put up. $50. It wasn't much back then. They're talking about 1960. It's 61. 1960.
$50 to bail you out.
That's what was in the paper. That's how I remember what it was.
Oh my goodness.
But I have that article someplace in here.
Okay. So you that's where your history of activism started for you. How did that carry over to college for you, both in terms of you being the president of SAFE and also you basically even in your field of study of what you wanted to do with your life in terms of a career? How did that affect that?
Let me go back to even when I was younger than that. It comes to mind that living in the country, my mother may ask my stepfather to go and get something to eat from a sandwich or something, a fish sandwich, from one of these little restaurants that they had in the country. And but you couldn't go in the front door if you were black. You had to go around the back where a hole was cut in the wall. And
not even a door.
Not for us. So we had to go. People would line up, even when it was raining, or snowing, they would have to stand outside and get their order their food and go back and sit in the car until it was ready, and then come back and get it. So I saw that happening, and my stepfather would take me with him, and I was maybe about 5, 6, 7 years old. So I began to realize then that it wasn't something wasn't right there. So that I just wanted to recapture that. Sorry.
No, I actually appreciate you putting in it.
Yeah.
I guess it really. I'll come back to the other question in a second. I guess my next question is, I already hear when you're saying you saw the buses. You can tell something wasn't right.
Right.
In your mind, did you feel that? This may be an easy question for you, but in your mind, did it feel that, of course you should have the same rights as white people. Of course you're no different. Or did you feel that being in that environment where you were treated so much differently, did it change how you saw yourself?
Well, I saw myself as human. The same as the others were, and I should not have been treated any differently than you treat the whites. And at that time I was young, and that was one of the things that was going through my mind, was that I was human too. I'm not going to. It's not right that I have to stand outside, or my stepfather has to stand outside to get a fish sandwich that he's going to pay for.
The same amount as they're gonna pay for. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So. That's did I answer?
Yeah, you really did. You both, and I think that's because it's dehumanizing treatment. And so I'm glad that you took it and you knew something wasn't right with that.
Right. And that stayed with me over the years. And I think when I got to high school, in 11th grade, 12th grade, that's one of the things that came back to my mind that caused me to want to try to change some of the things that was going on. And I felt as though I was prepared then to do that, and even if it meant going to jail.
Man.
When I was in Annapolis back then, and in jail, and you asked me how long did I think you asked me how long did I stay in there? I said 1 to 2 days afterwards, and the others had gone. Well, one of the reasons when I decided to leave, one of the things that ran me out, it wasn't the policemen or the security people in the jail. It was the rats that were running around the floor.
But you know, I think that also goes to show, how you would, even the treatment that they gave to people that you would put in prison, and there were people that were not in jail, not in prison, but even just in jail for, small offenses such as, protesting, which is a protected First Amendment right.
Right.
So I think that's a big deal,
right.
just to think about, agreed.
First Amendment right for whites back then, but not for us. Not for blacks.
Let me ask you this, rather than, and we'll get into your college experience in a second, but I want to ask, in terms of the way that you've seen the evolution of protesting, in picketing from the 1960s or even your high school years to throughout, the 70s, 80s, and even to now. Do you feel that protesting in the ways that you all made famous is still the effective way to communicate this dissent, this type of unhappiness with the status quo? Or how do you feel it affects? Yeah, how do you feel about that?
You said, how did it make me?
Let me rephrase it. So, looking at, how do you feel that protesting has evolved from sit-ins that you did in the 60s to what it currently is now, when you see people, there's different marches and movements and stuff, but do you feel that it's effective as it was then?
Really, I think it is effective, but back then, well, now, I think people understand a little more than they did it back then during the early 60s. We just knew that something was wrong, but now people, I think a lot of what's going on today is happening when people go out and picket and for different causes. They do it because they learned they got the experience from what we did when we were back there in the 60s.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they felt as though that it was effective. It was effective back then. Dr. Dr. James Foreman, who was our national director of Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I used to talk. We became very close friends over the years up until he died. In fact, he came to a church, Ebenezer, our church, Ebenezer, and did a book signing there.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and spoke. Jim was much older. We became very close friends. That's the reason I call him Jim, but he was older than we are, than I was. I think Jim was in his late 80s when he passed. I think he died in 2005.
Okay, so that means he would have been 100. Okay, so yeah, he was about 20.
He was born in 1928.
Okay.
Born in 1928.
Okay.
King was born in 1929.
Really?
So Martin Luther King was a year younger than Dr. Foreman.
Okay, so that's his generation. Okay, different. So this is people that you were learning from at the time of the movement.
Exactly.
People that would have been speaking on events like the March on Washington and different engagements like that.
Exactly. And I was here. You saw it, and probably seen it in the newspaper. The March on Washington. And I was in that march on Washington during that time.
That's something you told me. I guess for the video, it's very good to. So, how was it? What was it like to be on the March on Washington, and what was it like to find out about it beforehand and then join up as a student?
Well, my response, one of the jobs that I had during that time, the 1963 March on Washington, I was tasked with helping to find transportation for people from college and Eastern Shore and Annapolis as well.
Okay.
And so I did find some transportation, buses in Anne Arundel County in the state of Maryland. There was only one bus company one high school, junior high and high school for blacks. And that was the junior high and high school combined. And blacks during that time, and it was in Annapolis. When I was living in the country, I was living about 20, 24 miles away. So we would leave in early in the morning from Kansas City in the morning, and got home. Couldn't see at night in the evening. You know, it was dark. That's how far we had to drive. The bus drivers had to drive. And there was one gentleman named Richard Thomas who he was black. He owned some school buses, and that's what we used. And he bought a couple of chartered buses. And
they took people back and forth to the March on Washington.
To the March on Washington.
Okay.
Took us there. So Richard Thomas, we have a sort of had a relationship, family relationship. Richard Thomas's daughter was she's still living. Dr. Thelma Thomas Daly. She was teaching at Loyola College in Baltimore.
Thelma Thomas Daly. Okay.
Dr. Thelma Thomas Daly.
Dr. Thelma Thomas.
It was Richard Thomas's daughter.
Okay.
Richard Thomas's brother was married to my stepfather's sister.
To your stepfather's sister. Okay, so this was a family friend connection, or this was not really a family connection, and so that's how you was able to figure it out. Yeah. That's very, first of all, very resourceful of you being able to just figure that out, because logistics is hard. Get people from one place to another. That's but that's also a really important part of it for you to be able to get people there. Yeah.
And Thelma, I think Thelma's in her 90s. I know she's in her 90s now. But she was I'm not going to give the year. My wife is a Delta, so she was the international director of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. And she's still very active.
Okay. In her 90s.
In her 90s.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
And I haven't seen her personally. My wife has, and has talked with her, but I haven't seen her since I was in elementary school. When we lived not too far from Rich Thomas, also owned a little small grocery store. The kids would go in and buy nickel and penny candy. Okay. And stuff when they get off the bus and stuff like that.
So did Dr. Thomas his daughter also? Did Dr. Thomas also help in the movement as well? Or how did she?
I don't recall whether that at that time, because that was I was during that period. I was still I wasn't even in my teens.
It was still a long time ago. Yeah. Understood. Okay.
And I'm 81.
Hey.
I mean 18.
Understood. Let me take you back to when you were also 18 back in the day too. So or a little after you're 18. So another thing about the march I wanted to know was, when you got there, was it a matter of listening and learning? Was it a matter of trying to show strength through the numbers of people there, or what do you think
Where is that in DC?
The March on Washington.
Well, there were, there were thousands. They say about 250,000 people on the mall back then. So I was one of those that was in that crowd, and I tried to maneuver my way to the as close as I could to the stage where Dr. King gave the "I Have a Dream" speech, and I overheard, and you probably saw it in the newspaper, where when King was up there speaking, Mahalia Jackson was sitting up there, and I don't know whether they had discussed it earlier or not, but she says, "Martin, tell them about the dream. Tell them about the dream." And that's when he started. That's when he went into it.
He really started preaching. Yeah. Yes, yeah. I read a little bit about that as well, talking about how it was a speech he had given originally. I think it was in Montgomery or it was in Birmingham. I don't remember exactly what the church was. and just hearing about that and how he, just how he was able to bring that back in that moment, how it ended up being such a big speech for him.
He was a brilliant person. Had a mind that was very sharp. Pick up things. Same thing with Dr. Foreman. Dr. Foreman, he was a person that could speak extremely well also, and had a good knowledge of this. When he left Chicago and went to the south of Georgia, and opened up the SNCC headquarters there.
In Atlanta.
In Atlanta,
Okay.
So, Jim Foreman, he's been here to my house. I have some pictures around here.
Okay.
With him, he had dinner with us a couple of times, and
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, just you know what? I'm glad that you were able to have such, powerful mentors and be able to talk to and learn from people in that way. I think that's amazing.
Right. Yeah, and he was always teaching. Dr. Foreman was.
Did he ever? What kind of things would you talk about in more of a present context? Because I feel like civil rights is one thing, but in the maybe 80s, 90s, what kind of things did y'all talk about?
Well, we talked about. Well, he has several books that he's written, and I pulled them out so that you take a peep at them. But I think he's written about 9 different publication books. One was about 300 or 400 pages. Is The Making of Black Revolutionaries, and that's one of his books. And so he was a very interesting man because he was very studious in philosophy. I call him a philosopher because he would sit and he would just talk, and his mind would go back and tell you, and say, but he was very encouraging because he says you can do that too. While he's talking to you, he would always come back and say, you can do that. Why don't you do that?
Rather than just saying he had all that bridges for himself, right. You can do it too.
Right.
That's amazing. I think one of the other things I need to, I've realized there's so much more you can get out of a book than than trying to learn from. But books, it's just there's so many books, and I think it's to be able to sit down and write one and be able to get all your thoughts out in that way is so impressive and so amazing to me.
I talked to a close friend of mine who was also in the movement, and he was one of the field secretaries. We call him, like oversaw maybe a couple of states in the South, 2 or 3 of the states in the South. And he'd go around and check on us on college campuses and pass information and stuff to us and that type of thing. Dr. Cleve Sellers. Cleve and I, we talk from time to time. And he lives in South Carolina.
Okay.
He's the former president of Voorhees College in South Carolina.
Voorhees College.
Voorhees
College. Okay, yeah, I've heard of that once before. At least.
South Carolina. So, one of the
president of the college.
He was president there for several years. So we get on the phone. You may have heard of his son, Bakari Sellers, on CNN.
Yes, I have.
That's
his. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I didn't know that was his dad. Okay.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. Bakari is not much older than you, I don't think.
He probably has to be at least
20 years. Maybe you're 20.
22.
22. Yeah, but 18, 20 years, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I guess the next question I wanted to ask a little bit about moving even into the present, because I think there's the one thing that the civil rights movement can do in protesting and picketing can do, but I think something that was very interesting when you gave me your business card, I saw that you were a board director of CETA, and I was like, I was like, what is it? So I looked into it, and I wanted to ask you, how do you feel that basically developing community business in developing Black businesses to be able to rely on each other and build this kind of strong network together.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that can bring about greater economic equality for Black people and empowerment?
That's another thing that I did. I went into business. You know, started out going back to when I first came out of college, I took a job as the director of the Annapolis Black YMCA.
Okay.
On an interim basis. So I did that. And then I also I've had several jobs. I worked as a private investigator. I worked as for the Anne Arundel County Detention Center and the Anne Arundel County Jail. Police department.
Okay.
And not as a police officer, but as worked in their call center.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I applied for a job at the FBI. Turned down. And
what did you want to do when you worked in the FBI? What kind of work?
I wanted to be an investigator. Yeah, I wanted to be an investigator, FBI investigator. But I went on, then I decided to, when I was turned down from that, I took a job as an investigator with the DC Alcoholic Beverage Control Board.
Okay.
And then several years later, I became the director of the DC Alcoholic Beverage Control Board.
Okay.
Appointed by Mayor Barry.
Okay.
Marion Barry is the connection there too. Marion was a good friend. Marion was our first national director of SNCC. That was before it was called Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It was called the Continuation Committee. Okay. And
continuation of movements.
Continuation, a movement.
Okay. Okay.
Ella Baker. She was working with Martin Luther King organization at the time, and she was the one that I understand that King told her to start a youth movement, and she was first selected, Marion Barry, as the first national director of the Continuation Committee. Then later they changed the name of it to Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So,
understood. So that's good that you got to. It's also interesting to just see how people, you went from people were in the. I think so often, I know in my generation at least, I think people see there's a disconnect between what happens in the civil rights movement in the 60s and then what happens going to the present. And so I guess we forget that the same people that were holding these positions of protesting, doing all these other things, also ended up going into the workforce and influencing government and business in other ways too.
Right. The moving into business, when I was working with the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, and this is probably hidden where you're headed now, I also, along with a friend, decided to open up a grocery supermarket.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it in Maryland? Where was it?
In D.C. Washington, D.C.
That's amazing.
And my friend was, at the time, he was a school teacher in Calvert County, Maryland. And but we decided to get together and talk with some other people and open up, I wanted to start a chain of supermarkets, because...
That's amazing, yes.
Yeah. But then the way that we did it, I think there was a total of about 5 stores that opened. Mine was at 150709 U Street, Northwest DC.
Okay, you was right. Okay, I know. I have an idea where that's at least. Yes.
Another one was on Columbia Road. Another one was on Franklin Street, Northeast, over there by Catholic University.
So you had 4 to start off with.
They weren't mine. What we did,
okay,
we gave it the name the big V supermarkets.
Mm-hmm.
So all 4 or 5 of the stores had the same name.
Mm.
We would purchase together
Mm.
as groceries and stuff to go into the stores.
Mm-hmm.
We would come together and we would buy. That's the way we bought the groceries, by pooling our monies and resources and putting it together and buying the stuff for the stores. So so that and I think my first year I earned about $1.5 million, but that's not in the grocery business. You don't. That's not a lot of money.
Is that gross? Was that gross or profit? That was
gross.
Okay, I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
so you still got to pay for the groceries, still got to pay for the lights, still got to pay for the building.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
And how I got my building, the store that I was in, 1507 and 09 U Street, it was a Safeway store, the smaller stores.
Mm-hmm.
And during that period, Safeway, NP, and Acme's were closing down their smaller stores and going to different neighborhoods with bigger stores. And so we went to Safeway and said we would like to take over that store. They were leasing it too from a lady in Montgomery County. And we sat and talked to them and everything. We were able to persuade them to allow us to have their non-brands food items in the store, like canned goods. If it didn't have Safeway on it, they could leave it, and we could keep it. We had the gondolas and stuff, so, they left all of that there, the meat counters and the produce counters.
So you basically had it. The good thing was the infrastructure was already ready for you. You just had to get the food.
Exactly. They just donated that to us. I guess they wrote it off. So, and that's how I wound up going into this grocery business. I had the store for about 5 years, but I was also working for the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board as an
At the same time.
At the same time, and I hired a manager to put in the store to run the store for me. We had a produce manager, we had a meat manager, and we made an agreement with a meat wholesaler to sell us our meats. I hired a butcher. He came from the Safeway store himself. Hired a butcher to butcher the meat, making the steaks, and because when we buy it, we bought it in D.C. Wholesale place in D.C. and half of a hog, a cow, the beef and stuff, and he would mix the steaks, and they knew how to cut all that up in the back there in the area that we had in the back. Safeway had it too. So, but we had was able to do that, and we also, when we bought our merchandise, in most instances, that we had an agreement where we would pay for it as we sold the merchandise.
Okay, so you didn't have a whole lot of overhead costs beforehand.
So we would not have a lot of overhead costs.
Okay.
And that was, different back then, that people would, like Safeway and all, would allow us to, would give us that privilege, to.
Nowadays, they probably want you to just buy it immediately. Or I guess you can get it on credit, which is similar but different. It's not like Well,
some stores, I don't even know whether stores are really selling stuff on credit anymore.
Well, I was saying if you were to go in and buy it with a credit card, you would end up buying it on credit and then paying for it later on once you got the money for it. So, but different system altogether.
That was a big help there, because when we bought stuff, a lot of that stuff was on consignment basis. On a consignment basis, and as we sold it, we paid. That type thing.
That's really amazing. I had a teacher in my high school. My senior year in high school, I dual enrolled at Florida A&M University, and I took a class called African Black Psychology. We had a teacher. His name was Stuart Hamilton, and he was telling me about a store that his family was having back in, I think it was either Alabama, Mississippi, or Georgia. I can't remember exactly what state it was, but basically talking about how he would, basically sell the food at the market or at the store, and then they would also run a garbage collection, and they would like have the pigs eat the garbage and do all these kind of. I was just like, that's something I had never heard before, and so I feel like this is a much more recent, but also it's taken up a couple notches, because you were doing this in DC and at an actual grocery store, So I think that's truly amazing. I've never heard anybody that's run a store before. Or not even just run, could own the store, and then had to get a person to run the store, run the different departments. That's truly amazing.
That was my first business experience, and I started right up here instead of down,
You started on a high, you did.
High level, and there were several small grocery stores in DC at the time and were around, but I decided I wanted to open a supermarket, and had an idea as to how I was going to handle and pay for the merchandise.
How did this idea come to you? Did you see other people doing this kind of thing? Did you feel like it would be profitable? How did?
No. We as a group, and the others had 4 or 5. There were about 4 or 5 of us, a big supermarket. And we sat down and we talked this stuff, talked it out, and planned it how we could do this. And I think the others may be deceased now, but God said he wasn't ready for me yet.
Amen. Amen. Hopefully he still got some more for you to do.
Yeah.
Hey, that's hey, come on, I like it. That's that's truly. I'm wondering.
My business partner is deceased.
Really?
Yeah.
That was going with the supermarket, or in
he died in 2017.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Not Alzheimer's, but a little Alzheimer's too.
How do you feel about your aging now, and I guess the difference in what you can do, the difference in what you've been able to do? How does that sit with you at this point?
Who said I'm aging?
Hey, come on. Hey, never mind. They say you either get older or you die. So, hey, you know what? I take age of me, but I don't know.
There's an old TV program. Guys used to say, "What you talking about, Willis?"
Oh my goodness.
No, but I've started. I have tremors now. Parkinson's, mild form of it. I guess you were in church when Pastor mentioned that Jesse Jackson also has he has Parkinson's, but his is more advanced. He's in a wheelchair and to get around, he has to be sitting down and someone pushing. But I'm still doing everything that I was doing before. Cut my grass.
That's a blessing.
Run up and down steps. They got these steps here, so
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. I did.
Yes, I have a 12-year-old grandson. So the other day he said, "Papa, want to play some football?" We were in my backyard throwing football,
and you could do it.
Yeah.
It's people 20 years younger than you that came. That's a real blessing.
Yeah.
Wow. I give it to you. I guess you're not Asian then. That's 18. I gotta take it back. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's another gentleman too that gave me some advice. As to, I met him one time at I think it was the National Business League convention, because I joined the different organizations that pertain to business, and this gentleman, he started his store, his businesses. He had a motel in Atlanta, Georgia, or somewhere down in Georgia there. He had his own hotel, motel.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever Martin Luther King and Abernathy came into town, he would put them up in his motel down there in that area. And so, let's see this. I think I have it. Let's see. No, that's something else. But I have it here somewhere here. This is
Oh, when you say in Annapolis when you were in high school.
yeah, the Annapolis articles with the articles and
1961. This is from Chicago Tribune.
Chicago. I said
Detroit.
Detroit, but it's not Detroit.
One of the adults, James Edward Boardley. Okay. Shows are made in jail. The other 6 who were released were posted after posting $54 collateral each are scheduled to appear in a hearing on Monday morning. Oh my goodness. This was Hinkle's.
Several demonstrations. Goes on.
Hinkle's restaurant, but we're given the sidewalk. We're driven to the sidewalk by a fire hose.
Oh yeah, fire hoses and many of those. These this is the gentleman that I'm talking about.
They had the hotel.
He had the motel. Yeah. He's the one that had the motel.
It's quite a picture, right?
But he not only had a hotel. This is me back here.
Man, look at that.
Yeah. So, and this is the mayor of Birmingham. And this was then taken in Birmingham, Alabama. And this is the mayor, who was the mayor of Birmingham back then.
We got something written on the back too. This is photographed by Gary S. Moore.
That's the photographer that took the picture in the year. And he's in D.C. He was a Catholic priest, and he left Bishop Stallings. He started his own churches and stuff. Has a church on Capitol Hill in D.C.
Really?
He's preached at Ebenezer as well.
Bishop Stallings.
Yes.
Reverend Stallings. Okay.
He became a bishop. I think I don't know how. He was a priest before in the Catholic Church. He left the Catholic Church. Used to preach about and talk about it as well. And I've had my conversations with him and all. But this is a picture that was taken at the convention there. And got me standing there in the center, caught down in Birmingham, Alabama.
What was it? What kind of convention was it?
A business convention.
But this is the NBA, okay, the National Business League, okay.
Yeah, and the gentleman here, for some reason, his name is skipping me now, but he lived until he was 103 years of age. And he not only had a motel, but he opened banks. He had his own bank. He had his own insurance company.
I'll be able to look him up then.
Yeah.
I'll be able to look him up for sure.
Yeah.
Because there's too many notable things in the age. I'll be able to find his name, and I'll let you know when I find it.
Yeah. He had his own insurance company. He has his own banks. He has his motel. I think he may even own the cemeteries that people. He made sure that people they would put up a certain amount of money, so if they pass and that type of thing, that
they have somewhere to go.
They have somewhere to go. Yeah.
I remember talking to my granddad, and he would tell me I was saying he's 20 years young. I think he's actually only 10, maybe 11. No, he's 10 years younger than you, or maybe 11 years younger than you.
Your grandfather?
My granddad is 70. I think my granddad is 71 or 72.
Oh, okay.
One or two. I think he's 71.
Yeah. So okay.
I think he's 71. 71 or 70. I think he's 71. But he would be telling me about. He would say, well, they already bought their plots to be buried in the Douglas Cemetery. He'd be telling me, he's like, oh, well, there's so many plots they already bought in advance. And I remember when I first heard it, I was maybe like 15, 14. I was like, what the world?
Yeah.
I was like, what you mean you bought your plots? I was like, why are you planning to die? But I guess You know, I guess it also makes sense because you know you're gonna need one eventually, but it's just the idea was so bizarre to me. But for somebody to think ahead and be like, you know what, not only am I gonna buy a spot, I'm gonna buy a spot to sell to other people too.
Exactly.
That's a businessman.
Yeah, that's what he was doing. And I used to talk to him quite frequently on the phone. We would talk on the phone. He would give me ideas and how he got started and went to school. And I think he went to school. He was telling me that he went to 10th grade.
That he had 10th grade education and did all that.
10th grade education, but then later on, I don't know whether there were what do you call them, where you got degrees without having to go to
like a GED or like a honorary degree.
Not honorary degrees. You got honorary bachelor's and a master's, I believe.
That's all. That's some honorary there, yeah.
He when he died, I think they said that he somewhere in the neighborhood of he told me a story one time. He says he went into he was called to speak. So, I don't know if it was in Chicago or where. So he went there to speak. He went into the doors and everything, but because he was black, the little old black man come in there. There was a white event. They said, "I think you're in the wrong place." So
and he was the one called to speak.
Yeah, he was the one that was called to speak at this event. So he walked down the halls and looked and everything. Somebody walked up to him and said, "Are you Dr. Gaskins?" Is his name. So, "Are you Dr. Gaskins?" He said, "Yes." I think he had an honorary doctorate too. It says, this is where you're supposed to be. And so they walked him back and walked him up front and everything. But the people that were on the door, they assumed because he was black that he was
in the business.
But he says one of the things that they asked him, his net worth. He says, "I don't know what my net worth is. I think it's maybe somewhere around 150 to 300 and some odd $1 million."
And this is in the what year? This was in this was in the 60s. No, this was in the 60s. This would have been in the 80s. When would this have been? When would this? Let's see. What year would this?
Did they have a date on the back?
They got a phone number on it.
A phone number.
So if you were in college in the 60s,
A.G. Gaskins, that's his name. A.G. Gaskins.
A.G. Gaskins.
You can look it up.
Okay.
And they say when he died, I guess he sold off some business, but his net worth then was like 150 million, 200 million, something like that.
Successful businessman.
Yeah. And he and King and Abernathy, they fell out somewhere along the line.
They fell out?
Because word was getting out that he was disagreeing with some of the things that Dr. King was talking about. And he wanted to do it he thought they should do it a different way. So they decided to call him out of town. But he said he spent monies to help people, to help the movement. He gave them money and stuff like that to help the movement and everything. But this is his wife right here, Minnie. But I used to pick up the phone, give him a call. He enjoyed talking with me, and he would call me sometimes in my office in D.C. So Dr. A.G. Gaskins.
What other wisdom? So I know you got a lot of wisdom from him. What wisdom do you feel that you picked up over your life that you would pass down?
I picked up wisdom. See, growing up in the country and on the farm, you don't expect to. Let's see.
I'll ask you about this in a second. Wait a minute.
Wait.
Whoa.
I guess the wisdom that I got was from being around older people, things that I had experienced. Going back to the carry-out place and having to go in and get food from the back of the building. standing in line to get a pizza, slice of pizza. Incidentally, this one restaurant, Submarine Haven in Annapolis, they, one time we went in and we sat in on the stools, and the lady told us behind the bar, she says, you have to stand over there, you can't sit here. And so she went back and got the owner. The owner came out. He said, hey, boys, and there was about 3 or 4 of us sitting there. He said, what can I do for you? I said, we want a pizza. Okay, you want a pizza? Yeah. You guys, she said she told you to wait over there. I said, yeah, we want to sit in here and eat it. Oh, okay, that's not a problem. He went and got the pizza, and it's an Italian place. They had the dough and everything, laid it on the pan, and then reached in the garbage can and pulled out the tomatoes and stuff, and sprayed it out on the dough and everything. I'm gonna give you boys a big pizza. And threw his hand and sprayed it out on the dough, and then hawked and spit in it right in front of us, and sat it up right in front of us, just like that, on raw dough.
Man. Man.
Yeah, so
talk about this next level disrespect.
Yeah.
Just indecency.
Yeah. I mean, he just hopped and spit in it, and it looked like he'd been chewing tobacco too.
It was brown. Oh. Oh my God. Like he got you some balsamic vinegar on there.
And it sat right in front of us. We still refused to leave and call the police. And I think I seem to be the one that always get arrested. So they arrested me again, threw me back into jail.
You was their favorite.
Yeah, because I wouldn't listen. So that's and another thing too. Then in the we used to raise our own, well, not our own tobacco, but the landlord that owned the property. We lived in an old small shack. You could see the ground from the floor. That type of thing, and holes and stuff. Used the old books and telephone books and stuff, and try to patch up the holes and things in the floor. But most of our food and stuff was, we were tenant farmers. My mother and stepfather was, and we would go out and help, raise the tobacco and plant the tobacco and plant the sweet potato patches and fields and stuff like that. And the owner would let us have our own food. They had cows and pigs and stuff like that. We would do the raising of them, feeding them and all. And the milk, we would milk the cow. They didn't have the machines then. You had to
use it yourself.
Yeah, so and we would we had to milk the cows, but we could keep some of the milk. And my mother used to take the milk and put it in a jar and shake it until the cream separates from the milk, and take the cream off the top and just keep shaking it, and it becomes butter. Put a little salt in it and everything. That's how we got our fresh butter, and had our own fresh milk and stuff. And that's really how we were getting paid, by providing us with the food that we work for, and the tobacco and stuff, the raised tobacco. We would go to the tobacco farms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to the work in the field.
In fields. Mm-hmm.
Cut the tobacco. And then up here we used to, cut the tobacco and lay it out, and then put it on the sticks, tobacco sticks. I don't know what you know. Spear. Put a spear.
I know what you're talking about. I haven't. Yeah. When you put the big leaves on the. Yeah.
Well, not leaves, the whole stalk. Just, and until you get several stalks on there, you lay it down and it keeps going down there. I started really. My stepfather really started me when I was about 5, 6 years old. Out there carrying tobacco sticks.
Wow.
And dropping them. I could only maybe take 2, 3, or 4 at a time, but he had me doing that. My grandfather did too. My grandfather wound up owning his place, so he had a few cattle. I mean, a couple of cows, a couple of horses, some chickens, ducks, turkeys, geese. Had a couple of each, and a rooster, because the chickens would lay the eggs, but in order to fertilize,
you need a rooster on it.
You need the rooster there, so we had the rooster. So we always had fresh eggs. My mother would send me out there to get the eggs out of the little house with trough with straw in it. And that's where the chickens would get in there. The hens would get in there and lay their eggs. It's very interesting to see how they knew how to do that.
The chickens or
the chickens? They would not lay their eggs on the ground. They would get up in their trough and lay their eggs in the trough on the straw, so they won't crack. If they wanted to have more chickens, they'd sit on their eggs until I guess after they're fertilized and everything.
I had my grandfather told me that he grew up sharecropping. He said until he was maybe probably 12, and until he was probably 12, and I think then he got his first job. But he told me, I think his mother was my great grandmother, his grandfather, his father, all in South Georgia as well, and I think they did tobacco as well. They would also do pine straw at the time. There's big tree farming down in South Georgia. Blueberries too.
Blueberries. We used to pick blueberries. And, get blueberries off the tree. Dewberries, but some would call blackberries and dewberries. And dewberries are a little bigger than the blackberries.
My grandma, I would have a lot of. I grew up. This was I never met her, but this is what my mom would tell me that there was a woman named Mama Henderson. She said she would make her blackberry doobies.
Oh, yeah.
The pie. So she. That's amazing.
Yeah, and we hardly ever had to buy any, like peaches. They had peach trees, apple trees, pear trees. My mother would go out, and we would go out, and I'd go out and help her and put those in bring them in the house, and she would wash them and start to cook them on a wood stove. We didn't have gas and electric, and then we had the lamp, or kerosene lamp.
Wow!
And she would cook it on the wood and can and put the sugar and stuff in it. And
this was in the 1940s.
This was 50s and 60s. So 1940s too. Yeah, 1940s. I was born in 42.
Okay.
I was born in 42, so it was late 40s that I recognized what she was doing. She would make her own, and we would put the peaches in a jar, and we have for the winter.
Preserve them.
Yeah. And put the top on it, old mason jars. And
I've done that once before, but with figs.
With figs? Yeah, and same thing with apples and basically everything, really. That's what we did. The meat house, we had nothing like those good old country sausages that we made. Well seasoned and everything. Hang them up outside in the meat house, links and all. It's such a different time. These are different times now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I realized one day, we are very removed from the food that we eat.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to think about the fact that your food comes from an animal if you don't want to.
Right.
You don't truly have to sit there and think about this chicken that I'm eating. Like this, I'm eating. I know I'm saying it's chicken, and I know I'm looking at it as chicken, but it doesn't look anything like an animal.
Yeah.
And so because you get it from the store, it's already plugged. You know, it's already butchered up. You don't have to think of it as an animal or ever was.
Yeah.
So it's like when it comes to the processed foods, you get so many foods that are already broken down to such a level. It's hard for you to think, okay, flour then comes from wheat, or because you don't have a reason to, or sugar comes from sugar cane, or from all these you don't have to think about it.
No, you don't. Yeah, so those are the. That's how we were brought up. On the farm. Food don't even taste the same now as it did back then. That was real food.
I can't vouch for that. I don't know. I don't know what kind of food. What kind of food? I don't know.
We plant our tobacco and stuff like that. Put the seeds in the ground. Well, first we had to tilt the soil and walk behind. Hitch up a plow with two handles on the back onto the horse, and we would walk behind the plow, tilt with the plow down there, tilting the soil, and then afterwards, this is when the tobacco beds, we call them tobacco beds, and then we would take the seeds and stuff and put it in the ground, and that type of thing, and then after a few months, when the tobacco gets about this tall, tobacco plants, we take the tobacco plants and then put it in the field, and put the holes in the field. And,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So you took you didn't put the seeds straight into the field.
No, you had the bed, and then you covered the tobacco bed up with. Like something like white sheets and stuff like that to keep the
it won't scorch from the sun.
Squirrels and stuff.
Oh, okay, I see.
And rabbits and stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's how we actually the back. And then when the plants grow up, then we pull the plants up, and that's what we put in the field. The tobacco plants.
I didn't know that.
And we had to go along and put those in the field. And then when the plants get high, then we go in. We have something we call topping tobacco, because the little plant flowers and stuff come out on, at the top of it. We go in and have to break those off, and then you take the tobacco and put it in the take it to the barn, put it on the wagon. The horses was pulling this. We didn't have tractors and stuff, and
that's crazy. Yeah. It's a truly different time.
Yeah,
that's a truly. I've tilled some soil before, but when I tilled it, I had a machine. I had to still lift it up and do it.
Yeah,
but and I had to push it, but it wasn't like a horse with a plow that I had to pick up. That's completely different.
Yeah,
I've had to, and I haven't ever planted on a large scale on that kind of way. Like I've been in a near fields, but I haven't planted it.
Yeah. They do things different now. They have these machines that they use,
and they kind of just they throw everything out there.
Exactly.
And that's why when you said about the tobacco, I figured you would just put everything out there to start, because I feel like that's what they do now. But it would have been different then.
Right.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a completely different. But I mean, I guess it's supposed to be different. It's been a lot of years, but it's very different.
Yeah.
Do you ever? I'm not gonna say you miss being in the field or working, but do you miss the aspect of living on a farm, being able to be close to your food in that kind of way, or did no? Okay, no.
No, I worked hard as a kid,
You said I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's how people, survived. Then they had to plant their own gardens, and I know when someone would come to our house down there, they would. My mother was one of these people that if you came to our house, you had to eat something. And so she would make some biscuits or some cornbread while the guest was there, and she would tell me to, James, go out there and get 2 chickens. 2 chickens. So we had to go out there and get the chickens.
You gotta catch them too.
Oh yeah, they throw some corn around on the ground. They come up to you. You take the chicken, and I remember my mother used to do it most of the time. Take the chicken, put it on a piece of wood down there, lay the head, chicken neck down on the wood, and she have the hatchet. The chicken pull back, she pull the head back out again. If you pull it out a few times, the chicken will leave the head lying there for a while, and she just chop the head off and throw the chicken away, throw the chicken on the ground. The chicken's flapping around on the ground with no head until it bleeds out.
Oh my goodness!
And
I've never seen that before. I heard it. I heard people say, chicken run around with his head off, but I never seen it.
Yeah. Then you take the chicken and dip them in. She would take the chicken and dip it in some pot of scalding water, hot water. And then you had to pluck the feathers off, pull the feathers off of them, and then you open them up. But the thing about going back to the pigs, the hogs, you ate everything from a hog. We had, when we killed the hogs, and see the landlord, the owner of the property, the white guy, they want for instance, they want the ham, and basically that's most of all they want. They might want a shoulder or something like that, but they would leave the liver. You could keep the liver. You could keep the kidneys. You could keep the heart. You could eat chicken heart, pig hearts too. And you can keep the testicles. They eat those too. Mountain horses, they call them now.
I have had pig feet one time. That's probably the craziest thing. It seems crazy to me, but it ain't that crazy. You eat everything else. Well, okay.
You keep the feet. You keep the intestines, the small intestines, the large intestines.
That's not. Is that chitlin too? I thought chitlins was from a cow, or chitlins from a pig.
Chitlins are from a pig. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I never had chitlins. I know I got cousins that eat chitlins. I never had chitlins. Okay.
Yeah, they're good. I like chitlins. I still like them, matter of fact. Yeah.
I'm gonna get
you can get them in a giant, triple clean.
They have them in there?
Yeah, they sell them in the frozen foods area.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Pork chitlins. I usually get the triple clean ones.
Just in case, yeah.
But back then, you had to clean them yourself. And all the stuff was still in them.
I know some people still clean them still. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit. Tell me about this one right here.
That's me right there.
That's you.
This is Stokely Carmichael.
What?
That's when the National Guardsmen when they first showed up in Cambridge.
Did they already hit y'all? Y'all wet? Did they hit y'all with fire hoses? Or what was
fire hoses. That's the reason. That's where all the water and stuff was. My shirt was still wet. His probably was too. He had a white shirt on. I never forget that night. Stokely and I were leading the demonstration. This was in Cambridge, Maryland. Gloria Richardson, who headed up the movement SNCC chapter there in SNCC chapter in Cambridge. She and my roommate, Johnny Wilson, they had gone to first they went to Annapolis to meet with the governor. It was Governor Tarras. And they met with the governor to try to get him to do something, intervene with what's going on in Cambridge and around the state. And then they left there and they went to D.C. and they met with the Attorney General, which is Bobby Kennedy, President Kennedy's
his brother. Yeah.
He was the Attorney General then.
Hmm.
And they met with him. They called me and told me that they were on the way back. We told them that the National Guardsmen were there. So Gloria said, "Well, we'll be back soon. Then I'll try to get Bobby Kennedy to hold up everything. Call the governor and tell him to hold everything up." And so I don't know whether they did or not. It wasn't until Gloria got back to Cambridge when they actually they were talking to Stokely. They were talking to both of us, but mainly Stokely, and they told us to break up the crowd. We had about 200, 300 people behind us, kids and the parents and stuff. Can you see some of them in the picture? Yeah. They were back. There was about 200 or 300 people, and so Stokely was more of a radical than I was. So he told him no, he wasn't going to do it. So he said, they told him, said, either you break it up or you go into jail. Stokely said something to him, cursed him or something. And I think he might have spit on one of them too. And the National Guardsmen hit him, grabbed him, and with me, they took the gun right here, and the back of the gun, and hit me in the chest and knocked me on the ground. Then they tried to grab me, so I guess they arrest me and everything. But I scrambled, and some of the other people back there was pulling me and that type of thing, and had us to. And I got away in the crowd. I managed to be able to get away and make myself back in 40 miles down the road into Cambridge. But I really didn't have to didn't have any problems because the guy, a friend of mine named Tom Hay, he's deceased now. He had a car on campus. He brought us up there. He was supposed to be marching with us. But I was going up the road, heading back for the campus after the National Guardsman was trying to catch me. I was looking and dodging, ready to run through the woods and stuff like that. Tom Hay pulled up beside me. He said, "Hey Jim, get in." He called me Boardley. "Hey Boardley, get in." So I got in the car. I said, "Man, where were you?" He says, "I was waiting for you." He never came. He never. And when he died, his wife had me to. They lived down here in Fort Washington. Had me to speak at his funeral, and I told that story. People rolled and laughed. You thought you were in a funeral.
I can't believe that. I'm just looking at this picture.
See that bayonet?
Like they was ready for war.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They would have. If somebody had done something that hit one of them or something like that, then that blade would have gone through them. And,
that's crazy.
There have been many people stabbed with those bayonets.
I've heard about fire. I've heard about the fire hose. I heard about dogs. I didn't know I never seen nothing like this.
Speaking of the dogs, in Princess Anne, Maryland, where the college, where University of Maryland Eastern Shore is now, we used to, when I was in school, it was Maryland State College. We had a big demonstration of about 250, 300 students and even some of the professors or assistant professors joined us in marching in Princess Anne, trying to get them to open up the restaurant and one movie theater for blacks to be able to sit downstairs in the theater. Where was I?
They were opening up the movie.
We were actually when they brought the fire trucks in with the water hoses and everything. That pressure from those water hoses was so powerful. I mean, I know I was only about maybe 130, 140 pounds then. pick you in the air, have you the water would just have you right in the air, feel like putting a hole through your body. And that's how it felt like, just throwing you around like a piece of paper. And then they brought the dogs out, the canines, and turned those loose on us. And I was the leader of the group. And you need someone else to tell you that what I did. I was telling the people, don't run. They would running back towards the campus, from town back to the campus. I'm telling them not to run, but I was in front of them running. Then running myself, telling them, don't run.
What? You said, I'm trying my best. I'm being strong now, but wait a minute. You said, I didn't sign up for this now. Why you brought the dogs out too?
I could deal with the water, but I couldn't deal with those dogs. God. And the dogs barking and running after me and everything. And they running. I was telling them don't run because the dogs would be running after us.
They'll be chasing you.
Yeah. And I didn't want them to get me. I'm the leader.
What? That's crazy. Oh my goodness. Look, all I can say is I'm glad you made it out the '60s because they looked like they had all type of weapons trying to form against you.
Oh yeah, they did. And several people lost their lives in the movement. I remember John and Wilson. We were roommates too on campus. We went to Cambridge one time, and to try to get into the theater that they had there. And they told us we couldn't come in. And so we lay down on the ground in front of the door and blocked the door. They won't be able to let anybody else in. They called the police. Police came over there and dragged us, both of us, through. If there was a puddle of mud and water over there, that's where they would drag us through. The mud and water. Threw me in the car first, in the back of the car, and they put me in the car. I sat there, and John and I, we still had our arms locked. So they took the nightstick.
Oh, I thought you said something. I was like, wait a minute, okay. It took yeah, I was like, what?
Yeah, they took the nightstick and whacked us over the arm. I snatched my arm in, and I still sat there. They couldn't. So John couldn't get in the car. They couldn't get in, and I would move. And you should hear John tell if he was alive, he'd be telling you the story. He says, "Here they're beating the shit out of me, and your boy they're sitting there blocking me from getting in."
He said, "So far he got beat."
So and one time there's a cemetery. There's a street in Cambridge called Race Street, and Race Street, and we were not. The policeman had us in the car one night, and says, "Look, if you boys come in through here again," he says, "See that sign there? You all go to college. See that sign there? What does it say? It says Race Street, right?" So we answered, says, "What's that over there? What does that sign say?" It says cemetery. He said, "If you all bring your black asses up here again, your ass is going to be in the cemetery."
There's
still the Race Street and the cemetery right there where we were.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Y'all, you know what? I think that I don't know anyone who's been through the same type of just brutality in protesting. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
And this book here,
it's got the picture in it.
Yeah, that's this picture here. But let's see. This Parkinson keeps me shaking.
That's all right.
This Gloria Richardson, she died about 3 or 4 years ago. We went to her memorial service.
Mm.
We used to talk on the phone all the time, Gloria and I.
Wow.
Choking. Now, this is Marion Berry right here.
Mm.
Jim Foreman.
Mm.
You say you met him?
His son.